In this section, we're going to be talking about scatter plots. Okay. Scatter plots, if you look up on your paper, up on the top left, it has the words with the definitions. It's a graph that relates two groups of data. Basically, a scatter plot's when you go and you collect data. Let's see. And not everything always goes in the same line when you go and take a survey from people. So you may have dots that kind of go everywhere. But those scatter plots tend to go in a trend. And a trend line is a line that approximates the relationship between two quantities on a scatter plot. So basically, it takes about the average of all those points. So for example, if this was my scatter plot and I went to go draw a trend line, I would draw a line that goes through the middle of all the dots, because an average doesn't mean it hits all the numbers, right? When we take the average, we add them all up when we divide by how many numbers we have, right? It doesn't mean that it would be those exact numbers that we added up. It's the average of them. So you would go, and your trend line is going to be a line that kind of goes through the middle of all those points. Okay? It's going to be the best guess of approximately what all those points will equal. Now, I think that's it on that page. All right, so one of the types of trends that you can have is a positive association. Okay, so I would draw this right here on your paper. A positive association or correlation is the property that two quantities tend to increase and decrease together. Meaning that if my dots kind of go up like this, the trend reading from left to right, if I was to draw a trend line, the trend line would be going up. Right? This would be a positive correlation, meaning that they're all going up. See, it means, like it says, when two quantities, and we'll be talking about the two things, when they either increase or decrease together. That means when the two things we talk about are both increasing, or if they're both decreasing. Sometimes the decreasing part is what makes us so confused when we talk about associations. But think about multiplication. When you take a positive times a positive, what does it equal? When you take a negative times a negative, what is that? It's the same concept. So when both things are positive or both things are negative, it's going to give you a positive association or correlation. Okay? As I go down, and the next things you guys have are a negative association. Well, let me go with the idea. It says the property that one quantity tends to decrease and the other increases, meaning one goes up and one goes down, increasing and decreasing. Well, if I multiplied, what's a positive times a negative? Negative. It's kind of the same idea. So on this graph, I didn't know I still had that one on there. Okay. On this graph, you would see that the trend would be doing what? From left to right. It'd be going down. So my trend line here would tend to be going down. The trend line is not exact. It's an estimate. It's an average. Now, the other type that we would have is no association or correlation. That's when independent. That means two quantities do not have a positive or negative association. Basically, they don't go together. For example, how hot it is outside and how much money you make. Like me as a teacher. Does the temperature affect me as a teacher? No. Um, your hair color and what you're going to get, what the grade you're going to get on your test. Does that have anything to do with each other? No, that's no association or correlation. We can still take data on it. Your birth month, and how many sisters you have. They don't go together. So when we see this graph, no association or correlation could look like where they're just, it's kind of all over the place. They don't go together. Well, I shouldn't say don't go together, but they don't have any kind of trend that works out together. Another example of drawing the trend line, or not a trend line, but drawing a scatter plot that may have no association. What if I went across like this? If I drew a trend, if I try to draw an average, a trend line between all of that, is that line increasing or decreasing? No, it's just going straight across. There's no trend on this one. Okay, so I would get those sketched down and make sure you have those. Okay, so now let's look at this. We've got a graph. Well, let's see. Can you guys, there should be space on the back of your paper. Flip your paper to the back. With this right here, which is the x-axis? The bottom. How about we call it horizontal? And what's the y-axis? Goes up and down. Let's call it the vertical. Okay. Which one is the independent variable? The x is the independent. Y is the dependent. Which one is the range? Range is the y. What's the x called? Domain. You have to have those memorized. You're going to have to know that domain is x and range is y. Independent is the x and the dependent is y. You need to know that the x, vertical, means across left to right. Did I say vertical? Sorry, I meant horizontal, goes from left to right. Vertical goes up and down. Okay. Now let's go to this right here. We're going to take a minute and I want you to graph. We're going to graph this right here. This is the average temperature is going to be my x. The number of visitors is going to be my y. So on your graph, you need to label your axes. And we're going to, see, x is average temperature. So right here on the x, would you write temperature? And the y is the number of visitors. Okay. Now, on this right here, when I go to look at my x's, if I start off and go ones, am I going to be able to hit all these numbers? No. Well, let's see. It says 80, 83, 85. One thing we could do, we could go by tens or something, but it looks like my lowest one is what? 80. So let's do this. Let's go down here at the bottom. You kind of put a squiggly mark down here. That means that we're going to not start off at the beginning. We're going to start off at 80. Now, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that should work to go up to, so this would be 90 if we go by ones. 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. We'll put 100 out there. That'd be this line right here if we added an extra one. Okay, so we'll make them all go by ones because I did the little squiggly right there. That's why it's off. Now, on the Y's, geez, okay, the smallest is 75, right? And we're going to go up to 450. Ay. Let's see. What could we do? Maybe we could start off. Anybody have any ideas? Yeah, but there's a lot. Yeah, I know. There's not as much for hundreds. Let's try this. Let's go by 25s. So let's go right here and make it a little squiggly. And let's start at, we can start at 75. Our first one will just be a little bit lower there. Start at 75, 100, 125, 150. Sometimes it's hard to write all those little numbers, so I skip numbers or skip lines and just write every other. 225, 250, 75, 300, 350, 400, 450. What's the largest we went up to? On the, what is there in the Y? 450? Okay. Now, so let's think, let's write this off to the side too, because I'm kind of combining a couple different things together. The X's. X minimum. What was the smallest X number we have on here? 80. Okay, so the smallest one we had was 80. X maximum. What's the largest X number we went up to? The data we have is 100. Now, we're going to write X SCL, meaning scale. What did we go by on our graph right here? What is each line? 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. Didn't we go by ones? Okay, so X scale is 1. Don't worry, it'll all come together in a little bit. Y minimum. What was the smallest Y number we had in that column? 75. Y maximum. What was the largest Y number? 450, right? Y scale. What did we make our Y's go by? 25, right? Because each line is going by 25. Right? 75, 100, 100, 125, 150. Okay? Don't worry, we'll come back to that in a little bit. Okay? Let's go ahead and graph these points. So let's see here. Let me find my things. I've got 80 and 75. So if I go over to 80 and up to 75, put a dot. 83 and 83 and 100. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3 up to 100 and put a dot. 85 and 90. 85. Now 90 is almost up there, so we'll just put an estimate kind of close. And it's 90 and 150, right? I kind of need to keep track here. I did this one, I did this one, I did this one. All right, 90 and 150. 90 and over 150. Okay. 92 and 100. So over 92 and up to 100. 92 and 250. So over 92 and up to 250. 95 and 325. So I go over to 95 and up to, what did I say, 325? Okay. Over 95 and up to 280. 50, 75, somewhere up there. 100 and 450. Whoa. Way up there. And 98 and 325. Over 98 and up to 325. Okay. Looking at this right here, what kind of association or correlation does it look like it has? From left to right. So I would start over here on the left, right? And if I followed my data, what is it doing? It's going up. So that means it's going to be a positive correlation. Okay, let me see here. Maybe I should answer the questions first here. Okay, so in general, what is the relationship between the x values and y values? Guys, when the x values increase, what happens to the y values? Let's go back and look. As the x numbers get bigger, what happens to the y numbers? I heard you say it, Gonzalo. What was it? They go up. So they increase. So wait, both things are going up. So that's going to be a positive correlation or association. Next, it says sketch a trend line to approximate the data if applicable. Well, can we take this information and draw a trend line? Is it going in a trend? Yes, we just found it to be positive. So I'm going to go now. This is where people get confused. Take the rulers that you guys have right now. Kind of lay the ruler on its side so you can see. But try and lay that ruler so that you could draw a line that's in between that makes an average of all those points. It does not have to go through that middle point down here at the corner. Okay, like on mine, I'm going to lay mine and the average looks like it's about like that. Now, yours and mine may not be exactly the same. We're not going to lay down the rulers or our lines in the exact same spot. When I grade like the tests and the quizzes and stuff like that, I have to look at each one individually to find your answers. You'll find out what I'm talking about in a minute because I have to see where you sketched your trend line. But I am looking to see, did you put your trend line in the middle of all the points? Did you make it an average? Okay. All right, so we did that. Oh, let's see, is there any more on this page? Yeah. What kind of association does it represent? We've already said it's positive because from left to right, it is going up. Okay. Oops. There we go. The next question is why we draw a trend line. It says, using your trend line, predict your Y value if your X value is 12. Circle X value. So X value is 12. They want to know what the Y is. Okay. So let's go back to our graph. Now, let's go to where our X number. Oh man, did that messed me up. That was really low, isn't it? Let's do a better one than 12. Oh, come on. Just because of the way we drew our graph. And I'll explain how we can fix this in a minute. So let's say instead of 12, let's make it 94. Let's do 94 instead. We'll come back to 12 in a minute. Because of the way we drew our graph. So let's try 94. So what you're going to do, where the X number is 94, go on the X axis to where X is 94, which is right here. And I want you to draw or just kind of sketch a line, come all the way up to your trend line. Put a dot on the trend line. And now let's go over to the Y. What number is that? Mine looks like it's pretty close to 300, right? What is yours? Are ours going to be exactly the same? No, because your trend line might be a little different. So you're going to look and see, and I'll say about 300. The way I drew the trend line. You may have yours a little bit different, but it should be close to 300. So about 300. You should have about 275 or 300, somewhere in there. If not, look carefully at how you drew your trend line. Okay. Now, with our calculator, we're going to go and graph this in our calculator. So, before you start, you always want to make sure the memory on your calculator is cleared. Do you guys remember how to do that? Okay. Second, plus sign, 7, 1, 2. 1, and then 2. Okay. Some of you guys, if you don't have a 7, when you press second and plus, we're phasing out, but the older calculators only go to a 5, so it would be a 5. But if you have a 7, see how it says reset? We do 7, 1, 2. Okay. Now, here's where we start. First, you press the stat button. Look, right here, stat. You see it? Right by the arrows. Now, press enter, because for edit, press enter. Look at the top of your calculator right now. Do you see L1 and L2? Okay. You're going to put the X's in L1 and the Y's into L2. All right, so go in there and you're going to put 80 and press enter. 83, enter. 85, enter. 90, enter. 92, enter. Where am I at here? 80, 82, 83, 85, 90, 92. I have another 92. 95. Yes, you put every number in there, even though they repeat, just like we graphed them. And 98. Okay. Now you want to press the arrow button over to the right, and you go up to L2. Now put your numbers into L2. So you're going to put in there 75, enter. 100, 90, 150, 100, 250, 325, 280, 450, 325. Make sure, see how my numbers should all match up. Look at the bottom down here, how they both are at the same point. They both have the same amount. From here, right now, what you need to do, we need to what's called turn on our stat plot. We have to turn on the button to make these graphs. So you're going to go to y equals. Press the arrow key up so that it is on, see how mine's blinking on plot 1? Up here. Press enter. Now arrow back down. You should see that up on plot 1. See how it's highlighted? That means that your plot is turned on. Okay? Now if I press graph, it should graph these points. But right now, look in my window screen right here, what does this go out to? Does anybody know? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Goes out, it goes from 10 to -10. Do these points fit in the X for that? No. We have to change our window settings. So go up here to window. See window right there? Oh, look what we have. X min, X max, X scale. So let's go up here and put in there 80, 100, and we used X scale of 1. Y, the Y minimum was 75. Oh, I changed my scale. Hold on. Y minimum was 75. What was our Y maximum? 450. And our Y scale, what do we graph it by? 25. After you put that in there, now press graph. Does it kind of look like ours? Does it show you a positive correlation? It does. You have to know how to graph this in your calculator for your test and for what we're doing in the upcoming units. Okay? All right, let's go. Now put the calculators to the side. Let's go to the next one. The next one talks about number of absences and your Algebra 6 weeks grade. Let's make a prediction. What do you think happens here? The more you miss class, what happens to your grade? The more it goes down. What kind of correlation do you think that has? It should be a negative. Okay, let's see what happens. I know that absences is X. My algebra grade is the Y. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put absences. I didn't spell that right, did I? Nope, I put an extra C in there. Try again. Okay, our number of days absent. And the Y is the algebra grade. Now, let's think about our y-axis. I'm sorry, not our y-axis, our x-axis. X minimum. What's our smallest x number? 0. What's my largest? Oh, why did I put y? X maximum. My largest is 4.5. Now, X scale. Look at the numbers. What do you think we probably should make our lines go by? Sure, it is 5. Thank you. I was just trusting y'all. What do you think we should do our X scale by? 1? What other types of numbers do we have in here, though? So let's make it 0.5 or 1/2. Whoop. Let's look at the Y's now. Y minimum. What's the smallest Y number in there? 55. Y maximum. What would be the largest Y number? 100. Y scale tends to be the hardest here. Let's see. I know that it would be 0. I mean, like, so what do we have? We have 55 to 100. What if we went by 5s? Let's try 5s. Okay, so let's go down here. Our absences. I've got 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. Then our Y's, I'll make a little squiggly here because we're going to start up at 55. Okay, so we're going to go to 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. Okay. Go ahead and start to plot those points. Remember, we're not connecting the dots, we're just plotting the points. So not in the calculator, on your paper right now. Okay, so we're going to plot, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's see, what's my first one? 0 and 92. 0 and up to 90, let's see, it's 90, 92. 0 and 100. 0.5 and 89. 1 and 82. 1 and 90. 1 and 95. 1.5 and 85. 2 and 70. 2 and 80. 3 and 65. 4.5 and 55. And 5 and 58. Now we guessed a negative correlation. Does it look like that's right? It does. Okay, so let's look at the questions. Given the data in the table, okay, label the axes in the appropriate scale. We did that. In general, what is the relationship between the X values and the Y values? As the X values, okay, so let's look back at our graph. Let's see, go back. All right. As my X values increase, what's happening to my Y numbers? They decrease. So we're going to write, as the X values increase, the Y values decrease. Okay, so as the X values increase, the Y values decrease. It says to sketch a trend line to approximate. So take your ruler right now, lay it down so that's in the middle of all those lines, and draw your trend line. And sketch it. The next thing says what type of association. We just said that it's a negative. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right, now let's look at this. Using our trend line, predict the student's average if he has 7 absences. Circle 7 absences. So when I go over to my trend line, I guess we shouldn't have gone, we should have made it bigger, huh? Up there, instead of doing this, we should have done more, because right here, 5, 6, out here is 7 absences. Well, if I go down, let's make an estimate, because when I go down in my trend line, it's down here. Let's see. This would be 50, 45. What does it look like it about goes down to? About 40. So it would be, if you had 7 absences, you'd probably make about a 40. Let's see if the next one fits on my line. Hoo-wee. Okay. If the student received a 77 average, what's the best estimate on the number of absences? So now let's go over here. Let's go to 77 on your line. Go over to the line here and then down. About how many absences is that? About 2.5. It kind of goes in between. But we use our trend line to make an estimate on the information. So we have 2.5. Oh, that should be yes. 2.5. Okay. Now the calculator. Go to the calculator. Clear the memory first. It's easier to go through and do that. Other people disagree on doing that. Yeah, so let's remember how to do that. Let's go second plus 7, 1, 2. Now, how do I get to where I need to enter the data? Stat. Stat is right here. Stat and enter. Up here on your answers, you have 0, or at answers, your table, 0, enter, 0, enter, 0.5, 1, 1, 1, 1.5, 2, 2, 3, 4.5, and 5. How do I get over to the L2 column? The arrow. So I have 92, 100, 89, 82, 90, 95, 85, 70, 80, 65, 55, 58. Okay. First thing you want to do is make sure your data is even, okay? Make sure you didn't miss a number and that there's the same amount in there. So now let's turn our stat plot on. Let's go to y equals, arrow up, Now press enter. See how it says, now if I pull it down, see how plot 1 is already highlighted? Okay. If I press graph, I don't see anything again, and that has to do with my windows. Go to window, X minimum. Technically, to be better on your graphing, instead of putting the exact smallest number, give me a number that's smaller than 0. 5 is smaller. 0.5 is smaller than 0. Negative 0.5 or even negative 1. Let me just put in negative 1. X maximum. Whoop. Give me a number that's a little bit bigger than our 5. I'll just put in 6. Okay, you want something so that we can see it in our graph. Now, X scale, we'll still leave that alone. We're going to leave that as 0.5. Okay, because that's just telling me what the tick marks are. Now let's go down. We have Y minimum. Y minimum is 55. But let's do something a little smaller than 55. Let's put in there 50. Some people are like, well, how are you choosing 50? I'm just choosing a number that's smaller than what I listed right here. A number bigger than 100. You could put 101. I'll put 105. X scales will go by 5. Now press graph. Does it match what we graphed? Yes. It is a negative trend. It is going down. Okay. Now let's look at the last one. It says the daily average temperature and the number of tickets. Think about this. Say it was the temperature outside and the number of tickets to the museum. Do they have anything to do with each other? No. What do you think will probably happen? What kind of correlation? No correlation. We're going to take a minute. We're going to graph this and see if it goes with our prediction. Okay, so on this one, we're going to label, we have our X and we have our Y. So let's go on the graph here. My horizontal axis is my temperature. And the Y is going to be the number of tickets. Now, to figure out X minimum and X maximum, let's go to the X's. The minimum, the smallest one I have, it looks like is, oh, that one thing's in the way. 85, 90. Okay, so it looks like it's an 80. X minimum, looks like it's 80. X maximum, the largest looks like it's 100. Guess they don't live in Houston. X scale. If you're going from here, there's probably about 20 lines right here. You could go, I'll go by 20, I'll go by ones. So if I did the Y's, let's see. Y minimum, the smallest number in the Y's is 1. Y maximum, 10, 18 would be 18. Y scale, that's not too many from 1 to 18, so let's go by 1. When we talked about the other day, we talked about discrete and continuous. Would this data be discrete or continuous? Why would it be discrete? Discrete would be dots, which is correct, but you would have to sell whole number of tickets, right? You can't go and buy half of a ticket. So since you have to have whole numbers of tickets, it's got to be discrete. So as I go down here on my X scale, my smallest one, my first one right here, I'm going to go with an 80, 81, 82, and fill in our table. So we have 80, and we're going by ones. 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and 100 kind of goes off. Here I'll go by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so let's go and graph these. I like my stars here. I have 80 and 5, so I'm going to go over here to 80, over 80, and up to 5, put a dot. And I have 83 and 3, so 83 and 1, 2, 3. 85 and 10, over 85 and up to 10. 90 and 2, let's see, 90 and 2, 92 and 18, 92 and up to 18 up here. I know it's off a little bit. 92 and 9, 95 and 6, 95 and 13, 101, and then up to 1, 98 and 11. Well, let's look at this. Can you draw a trend line in there somewhere? What about these points? I mean, they seem to be all over the place. They're not really close together. So let's look at our questions. In general, what happens to the x and y values? As the x numbers increase, can we say our y numbers increase? Will they go down, then up, then down? Well, so in general, there is no relationship. To draw a trend line, you can't. There is no association. Okay, so now to go in the calculator, let's go back and let's put our data in there. So remember, before you begin, you have to do second, plus sign, 7, 1, 2. Press stat, then enter. Now you have 80, enter, 83, enter, 85, enter, 90, enter, 92, enter, 92, enter, 95, enter, 95, enter, 100, and 98. Now arrow over. We have 5, then 3, then 10, then 2. I think this one, let me move this over. That's an 18. 18, enter, 9, enter, 6, enter, 13, enter, 1, and 11. Again, make sure your numbers are even and you have the same amount in. If you press graph, you don't see anything yet. You have to turn your stat plot on. Go to y equals, arrow up to plot 1 and press enter. Go back down. Okay, now in here, we're going to go, and even when I turn on my stat plot, okay, it's still not on. So from here, I go to y equals, we turned on our stat plot, but we still don't see anything. We need to change our window. X minimum, I have it as 80. That's the smallest one we have here. Well, let's make a number that's smaller than 80. Let's go with 70 or 79. It doesn't matter. X maximum, it went up to 100. I'm going to go up to 101. X scale is 1. Y minimum, the smallest number was 1, so let's go with 0. Y maximum, the largest was 18, so I'll go to 20. And Y scale was 1. So now when we press graph, we see that the dots are all over it, just like our graph, seeing that there is no correlation. Now, on these, we're going to tell whether we're going to expect to have a positive, negative, or no correlation. The number of questions missed on a test and the percent grade on the same test. Well, let's think about this. Let me get my board on here. The more there we go. The more questions you miss, what will happen to your grade? Your grade will go down. If they're going in opposite directions, this is a negative correlation or association. Next one. The number of questions done correctly on a test, the more you do, the more questions you get right, what happens to your grade? The higher your grade. That is a positive correlation or association. The next one says the number of questions missed on a test, so the more questions you miss on a test, the number of cars in a school parking lot. What? These two things don't go together. There is no correlation or association. This last one here says the amount of sales, of umbrella sales, and the amount of rain. Well, let's look at the rain first. The more it rains, what do you think happens to umbrellas? The more umbrellas you sell. See, because if you think about it, when it's raining, what does Walmart do? It puts out the umbrellas in the first thing. When you first walk in. So this has a positive correlation or association.